Taiwan stands as a critical point of tension. China views Taiwan as a renegade province. Beijing has vowed to unify Taiwan with the mainland, even by force if necessary. The United States has a complex relationship with Taiwan. This situation creates a dangerous geopolitical tinderbox. A conflict here could draw in major world powers. The stakes are incredibly high for global stability and peace. The historical roots of this tension run deep. After the Chinese Civil War, the defeated nationalists fled to Taiwan. Recent events have heightened these long-standing fears. China's military, the People's Liberation Army, has grown rapidly. President Xi Jinping seeks the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Taking control of Taiwan is central to this vision. The PLA has been increasingly active around Taiwan. In the weeks leading up to late May 2025, this activity surged. These actions are designed to intimidate Taiwan and serve as training for a potential future operation. However, an amphibious invasion of Taiwan would be very challenging. Taiwan is preparing for such a scenario. It is adopting porcupine defense strategies designed to make an invasion incredibly costly for China. Taiwan is actively strengthening its defenses. The goal is to deter an attack by making it too painful for Beijing. The United States maintains a significant military presence in the Indo-Pacific. This presence is designed to protect U.S. interests and support allies and partners in the region. Key U.S. military bases are located in Japan and South Korea. Naval forces regularly patrol the Western Pacific, including the South China Sea and the waters around Taiwan. The U.S. strategy focuses on deterrence. It seeks to dissuade China from using force against Taiwan. This involves demonstrating a credible capability and willingness to respond. U.S. officials advocate making a potential Chinese invasion very costly. The U.S. provides Taiwan with substantial military support, mandated by the Taiwan Relations Act. Support includes sales of advanced weaponry and training for Taiwan's armed forces. The aim is to help Taiwan maintain a sufficient self-defense capability. Kurt Campbell, former U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, stressed Taiwan's strategic importance. He highlighted the intertwined economies and technological sectors. The U.S. seeks to maintain peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. The challenge is immense, given China's growing power. Several scenarios could trigger a direct U.S.-China conflict over Taiwan. Incidents between U.S. and Chinese military forces are a major concern. U.S. naval vessels and aircraft conduct freedom of navigation operations and surveillance missions near Taiwan and in the South China Sea. Chinese forces often intercept these U.S. assets. A miscalculation or an overly aggressive maneuver by either side could lead to a collision. Another potential trigger is an accidental escalation originating from a maritime incident in the disputed South China Sea. China claims vast swaths of this waterway. Other nations, including U.S. allies, have competing claims. A skirmish involving Chinese forces and, for example, a Philippine vessel could draw in the U.S. due to U.S. treaty obligations with the Philippines. A Chinese attempt to impose a quarantine or blockade on Taiwan is a serious possibility. This would be short of a full-scale invasion but aim to cripple Taiwan's economy and isolate the island. Such an action could prompt U.S. naval intervention. Wargame simulations conducted by military analysts paint a grim picture. They suggest that U.S. intervention in a Taiwan conflict would be very costly. Section 5. Strategic Ambiguity. The United States Taiwan Policy. The United States officially maintains a policy of strategic ambiguity. This policy relates to whether it would militarily defend Taiwan. If China were to attack, the United States has not made a clear commitment. This stance has been a cornerstone of U.S. policy for decades. The goal is twofold. It aims to deter China from invading, as Beijing cannot be certain of the U.S. response. It also aims to deter Taiwan from declaring formal independence, as Taipei cannot be sure of U.S. military backing for such a move. However, this policy carries significant risks. One major risk is miscalculation. China might misjudge U.S. resolve and believe the United States would not intervene militarily, which could embolden Beijing to launch an attack. Conversely, Taiwan might misinterpret U.S. signals and take actions that provoke China, especially if Taipei believes U.S. support is unconditional. U.S. President Joe Biden has publicly stated on multiple occasions that the United States would defend Taiwan if China attacked. These remarks have seemingly shifted away from strategic ambiguity. The potential for escalation to a direct conflict is a grave concern. Section 6. The Taiwan Relations Act, a legal and moral obligation. The Taiwan Relations Act, TRA, of 1979 is a key U.S. law. It governs the unofficial relationship between the United States and Taiwan. This act was passed after the United States normalized relations with the People's Republic of China. The TRA obligates the United States to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself. This includes sales of defensive military equipment and services, ensuring Taiwan can maintain a credible self-defense. The TRA also states that the United States must maintain its own capacity to resist any resort to force. This applies to actions that would jeopardize Taiwan's security, including its social or economic system. However, the TRA does not explicitly commit the United States to military intervention. It is not a mutual defense treaty like those the United States has with Japan or South Korea. Legally, a U.S. president can order military force in response to an attack as part of their commander-in-chief powers. Despite the lack of a formal treaty, U.S. strategic interest in Taiwan is profound. Kurt Campbell, former Deputy Secretary of State, emphasized this. This reflects a strong, albeit unofficial, commitment. Section 7. Global shockwaves, the far-reaching impact of conflict. A military conflict between the United States and China over Taiwan would be catastrophic. The impact would extend far beyond the immediate combatants. The global economy would suffer immensely. Taiwan is a linchpin in global technology supply chains, producing the vast majority of the world's most advanced semiconductors. These chips are essential for everything from smartphones and computers to cars and advanced weaponry. A war would halt this production, creating severe shortages and disrupting countless industries worldwide. The political fallout would be equally severe. Such a conflict would shatter the existing international order, pitting two nuclear-armed great powers against each other directly. Alliances would be tested, and nations around the globe would be forced to choose sides. The human cost of such a war would be tragic. Millions of lives would be at risk, including military personnel from all sides and the civilian population of Taiwan. Wargame simulations consistently project extremely costly engagements. The costs would far outweigh any conceivable benefits for any side. Section 8. The nuclear specter and the imperative for peace. The potential role of nuclear weapons casts a long shadow over any Taiwan contingency. Both the United States and China are nuclear-armed states. A conventional conflict between them carries an inherent risk. It could escalate to the nuclear level. This risk is a critical factor in strategic calculations, making a US-China war over Taiwan fundamentally different from past US military engagements. The presence of nuclear weapons serves as a deterrent. Neither side wants a nuclear exchange. However, if a conventional war began to go badly for one side, desperation could set in. The losing side might be tempted to use tactical nuclear weapons to stave off defeat or to force a negotiation. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te emphasized that peace is priceless. He called on China to restart dialogue, urging the replacement of confrontation with exchanges on equal terms. The imperative for a peaceful resolution cannot be overstated. The dangers of a US-China clash over Taiwan are too great. The future stability of the Indo-Pacific and the world depends on it.